I've always hated writing web design proposals, and I'll tell you why. It's because it takes a long time to write a pretty decent proposal, and I feel like I'm putting all of these great ideas in there for free, and then I send the proposal off to somebody, like half the time they don't even respond, and so I feel ghosted and really frustrated by that. And it took me almost 10 years to realize that I could actually land better clients at a higher price point if I just stopped sending the proposals. And so I'll tell you how I came to that realization, because it's a little bit of a wild ride. And so I'm going to compress like 20 years of my life down to 20 seconds or whatever. So we'll lose some of the details, but I think this will pull out some of the highlights so you can see how I came to this realization. So I've gone from poor to rich to poor to rich like a couple of different times in my life. And my first kind of cascade down into the poor zone was happened like this. So when I was 17 years old, my dad left. And then when I was 18 and then 19, both of my grandparents passed away that I was really close to. And then my mom got really sick right before I went to college, and she ended up passing away my second year in college. And so like everyone that I knew or cared about was basically gone from my life by that second year in college. And my mom was actually helping me pay for college at the time, and I was living in her house. And so now I'm living in her empty house because she's not there anymore. And it came to my realization that we had to sell the house. I have an older brother too, but he had already moved. He's like 6 years older than I am. And so he had already moved out and everything. And so I'm living in my mom's empty house and trying to figure out what to do about college. I ended up cramming all the credits I needed to graduate into my third year so that I could just get through college for 3 years instead of 4, which saved a lot of money. And I remember I was coming back home from college one day to get all my stuff because we had to sell the house and everything. And when I got to the house, and I don't even understand fully to this day how this happened, but I get to the house and the house is totally empty. Like all of my, like even my bedroom, like all of my furniture, all my clothes, every single thing that I had like this little digital piano that I used to play and everything. Like everything was totally gone. The house was empty, just like ready to be sold to somebody. And so all I had was the clothes in my dorm room at school, like my books, and I had a guitar. And so like that was everything that I had. And so I was trying to figure out what to do. My brother was gracious enough to allow me to like live on his porch while I finished school and everything. I was living on campus, so I only had to live in his house like during like vacations and stuff. But like that was a real low for me because I basically lost my whole family other than my brother, and no place to live. Like I guess technically I was kind of homeless, even though my brother was letting me live for him. I had no money, no job. I was in debt because of the school and everything. So like that was terrible. But then I get out of college and I get this awesome job working at this startup internet company, and then that evolved into launching my own web agency, and like I felt like I was making a lot of money out of that because I didn't have any real expenses. And then I ended up getting married, and my wife, like she was an industrial psychologist at Circuit City, so she was making a lot of money. I felt like I was making a lot of money, and I was probably making maybe $75,000 a year at this time. I was probably 22 or 3 years old at the time. And like she was making at least that amount, or if not more. And then when we got married, we combined our income. And then we bought this house together. And we bought the house with a interest-only variable interest rate mortgage. So and the interest rates were like ridiculously low at this time. And we were paying like $500 a month for this awesome brick house down in Richmond. And so we had no expenses. We had no kids. We basically had no mortgage. You know, we didn't have any. I'd already paid off all my college debt and everything. So like we had no expenses. So we were saving like $5,000 to $10,000 per month just in our bank account. We were going off to the Cayman Islands whenever we felt like it. We bought this black BMW with like tan leather interior and everything. And we were just. In fact, I'll tell you how we bought the car. So we were at dinner one night and we're like, hey, you want to go to the beach this weekend? Because we live in Virginia, and we're like, yeah, why don't we go down to Nag's Head? It's like, wouldn't it be fun to go to Nag's Head in a BMW? So we go to the BMW dealership, buy that black BMW, and then drove to Nag's Head that same night. It was a Friday night. And crazy enough, Saturday morning, we wake up to go get breakfast, and the check engine light went off on the BMW. It's so funny. So that stupid BMW, the check engine light would just go off all the time. It was crazy. And we would always get it fixed, and then like a few months later, it would go off again. And every time it would go off, I would take it in, we would get it fixed, and they would give me this kind of receipt of what it would have cost had the car not been under warranty. And it was expensive because it's a BMW, all the parts cost $1 million. So then we think, oh, wouldn't it be great if we had a kid and you know, built our family up and moved into a house that was big enough to like have a kid and everything. And so we moved a little bit out of the city and bought this awesome house, and my wife ended up stopping working to stay home with the baby. And so now we're living entirely off my web design agency with more expensive house, half the income, baby on the way. Actually, baby was already born. And so like tons of extra expenses, half the income. So now I'm kind of cascading back down into poor again. And I had sent off a few web design invoices, and the check engine light went off again on the BMW. And I knew it was going to be expensive because we were outside of the warranty zone now. And so I knew I was going to have to pay for it for the first time. And so I take the car into the BMW dealership, and I'm standing in the service department, and they give me like this proposal or whatever, like of all the stuff that they need to do to fix the check engine light this time. And I remember my eye just dropped right down to the bottom to look at the price. It was like super expensive, and I was already financially stressed because of all this other stuff. And I was like, it was heavy, right? But here's the thing. At that moment, in the BMW dealership, standing in the service department, it just went, I don't know why, but it just went off in my head that I bet this is exactly what my clients are doing when I send them the proposals. I bet their eye just zings down to the bottom. They look at the price and freak out. And it's like, well, so at that point, I was like, I'm never going to send another web design proposal because I don't want to do to my clients what's happening to me right now at the BMW dealership. So I go back home and I start thinking, well, how can I make this better? Like, what's going wrong? Like, why do I think people are not responding as favorably to my proposals as I want? And I came up with 3 major things. The first one was, I feel like in fact, I think this is even worse now than it was then. I feel like people have a gist for what they think a website should cost. And maybe it's because they have a low price anchor from looking at Squarespace or Fiverr or whatever. But I think people generally have a pretty low price expectation, especially now, for what they think a website should cost. And then when they see my proposal and the price is a lot higher than that, I think they freak out and be like, oh my gosh, why is this so expensive? And the reason it's so expensive is because I'm not just selling the website. I have the whole marketing plan behind it, like for ways to drive traffic and to capture leads and to nurture the leads into clients, and the clients, like grow your revenue, and like maybe you expand your service area, and like there's like a whole marketing plan behind it. And the website is, of course, the core central hub of all of that. But it's not just the website. Like the whole point is really the marketing thing. But when I send the proposal to people, I don't think they read it. I think they just zing down to the bottom, see the price, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's crazy expensive. Why would anybody spend this much money for a website? It's the CarMax. Have you heard me tell the story about, or the analogy about the Ferrari at the CarMax dealership? Like if you don't know anything about cars, like so imagine you don't know anything about cars. CarMax is like a used car dealership. And if you were going to shop for cars and you show up and you see a Ferrari sitting next to a minivan, you might look at the Ferrari and be like, why in the world would anybody buy this little red car with only 2 seats in it when for like 5 times the price of this other car that's right next to it that's so much bigger? They can hold so many more people. Like, why? That doesn't make sense. That's so crazy. That Ferrari is totally overpriced. And I think that's kind of what was happening to my web design stuff. It's like I'm sending out the proposal to people that can't really tell the difference between a Ferrari and a minivan with regard to these web design things. And they're like, well, why would anybody buy the Ferrari when the minivan is so much bigger and less expensive? Meaning that if I could go and get something even better, or at least equally as good from the guy down the street or whatever, and kind of get the same thing for less, why would I spend 5 times more? And the reason for that is they don't understand the difference between a Ferrari and a minivan. Or they don't understand the difference between my marketing package and just somebody just building a 7-page website and leaving. And so I wanted to be able to solve that value-based understanding. And then the other part of it is like, in addition to just like changing the gist or like the mindset behind web design pricing, I also wanted to underscore the value. Like not just like the extra revenue that it's going to create, but what pain is it going to be solving? Like I feel like value kind of comes in at least those 2 flavors of like, what are the added benefits I'm going to be getting, but also what are the pain points I'm solving? And then the third thing was, how's the person going to feel? Like what impact does it have personally on your life once you solve this problem? I mean, imagine if you're in a situation where you don't know how to get clients, or you need to increase your revenue, but you're stuck, and then you solve the problem. Like that would be a huge weight lifted off, right? Like that, there's value in solving that at a personal level as well. And so I don't think my proposals were hitting on any of those 3 things. Like I don't think it was solving like the price expectation part. I don't think it was underscoring the reason why there's extra value there. And it certainly wasn't touching on the personal implications of solving your marketing problems. And so I was like, well, I need to solve that. Like, and I think if I just would if I traded proposals for a conversation that I could have in person, or at least over Zoom, that it would solve the whole thing. Because proposals in that sterile sense, like the BMW dealership check engine light proposal, that doesn't inspire anybody. Like I need to be able to explain what's really going on without getting into the technical features. Like, think about any product that you know of that has like a really strong marketing campaign for it. Like the other day we were talking about the iPod. Remember when iPods came out? It's 1,000 songs in your pocket. Oh yeah, well, how big was the hard drive? How fast was the processor? How much did it weigh? Like, nobody knows that. All they know is 1,000 songs in your pocket, right? That's what I mean from getting away from the nitty-gritty tech features and into what does it do for me? Like, what's the value there? And when I just send the proposals, none of that happens. But if I can explain it, like if I can have a conversation with you, then I can bring to light the real benefit. And so there's 3 things that I want to try to bring to light. The first one is, who is this for? And this was, out of all the realizations I think I've ever had, I think this probably was one of the biggest ones, which was in the original days of my web agency, I was not targeting an audience. In fact, what I would do is I would just get a lead from somewhere, like a referral, then try to like figure out what they wanted. And then the last thing that I would do was build the solution based on what they told me. And so I had a solution last business. And so I was like, I'm just going to flip that on its head and have a solution first business. So I'm going to have a solution that's predefined and ready to go, like pre-built for a particular audience. And that audience was local service businesses. So then I'm going to take it to the people that I know it will serve, and then I'll show them how all of this value can come out of it. And so now I have the solution first instead of the solution last. And in order to be able to pull that off, I had to know who this is for. And so one of my main realizations in terms of like, why am I having these live conversations instead of sending proposals, is because I'm going and telling people, I know who my target audience is, so I know who to tell about this thing. And then I want to explain why it works, like the value proposition, not just the technical features. Like, I want to say 1,000 songs in your pocket, not how big is the hard drive and how fast is the processor. Like, I'm trying to get away from the tech features into the benefits, which I wasn't able to do previously in the proposal, because even if I wrote that stuff in the proposal, I don't think people read it. They just zing down to the price. And then the third thing is, I want people to understand that I'm the person who knows how to pull this off. And by having the solution first, I'm the one that created this thing. I'm now more I'm more like a doctor instead of an implementer or an artist. Like, I give this artist versus doctor analogy a lot. Whereas I think historically, a lot of times web designers are viewed as artists, where you meet with the client and the client tries to articulate this vision that they have in their minds, and then we use our skill set to bring that vision to life. Whereas a doctor, I'm not really interested in what's in the patient's mind. I want to know, where does it hurt, so that I can then use my skill set to solve the problem that they have that they wouldn't be able to solve if it wasn't for my skill set and my understanding. And so I want people to look at my authority, my leadership. I want people to see me as like a business doctor. And again, I don't think I can do that in a proposal, especially if they're not even reading it. And so that's why I wanted to shift away and just never send proposals again and always do live presentations for the sake of those 3 things. So if you want to see how I'm actually getting the leads, I'll put a link up here in the corner in just a minute, or I'll also put a link down in the description so you can see the live training on our website. It's called Local Legends. So you can check that out totally for free. But the other thing is, when I'm having that conversation, and even if they know who it's for and why it works, and that I'm the one that's able to help, what about helping people not have that fear of getting started, especially if it's going to be a meaningful financial investment? One of the realizations that I had that really helps close the deal is to offer guarantees. Like, you will close more clients if you offer a guarantee. So if you want to see how the guarantee works and the guarantee that I offer my clients, check out this video right here. Or if you want to see that Local Legends training, check it out right there. I'll see you in a minute.